KUTV Kenya on Facebook. Mr. Martin, how are you?
Thank you. I'm very fine this morning, and I'm happy that you had me in the show today.
Karibu sana. Who is Martin? Who is Mr. Martin Kioko?
So my name is Martin Kioko. I am a finalist law student here at Kenyatta University, and I am also one of the students who was privileged to take part in the research and the narration of the film.
Tell us about this film. Tell us about this documentary. What does the journey to justice mean?
So Journey to Justice is an idea that came to Kenyatta University School of Law from the Konrad Adenauer Stiftung, KAS, which is a German political foundation that deals with the rule of law in sub-Saharan Africa. So the Journey to Justice in itself is a process through which members and ordinary citizens of the public can be able to raise issues regarding their rights and have them heard by the relevant authorities. So Journey to Justice means the steps that you take towards accessing justice and adequate remedy within the justice system. And the whole idea of the film came out of human rights violations, specifically environmental rights. And the whole idea was between two marginalized communities in Kenya, showing how they have taken steps by mobilizing, coming together, joining with civil society to just have their voices heard when it comes to human rights violations.
So what inspired this particular film, and why is it so important?
This film was inspired by the plight of ordinary citizens who may be feeling aggrieved by government or other multinationals can just come up together, mobilize, and take up an initiative to raise their voice. And why this film is important is because it puts a message that showcases the power of unified citizens, people who can just come together and say that our rights have been violated, we have an aggressor, what avenues do we take, what offices do we access, what people do we contact to help us to put our voices to the public and be heard when it comes to human rights violations. So this is the important message that is being sent out by the film, that marginalized communities can actually come together, get relevant assistance, get help, and be able to raise their voice when it comes to human rights issues.
Oh, you've said that you've worked with two marginalized regions in the country. What regions are these?
So the first part of the film focused on Lake Turkana, which is in the northern part of Kenya. So we were looking at how the local community, which solely depends on the lake for their livelihood, was affected adversely by the construction of a dam on River Omo. So the construction of the dam on River Omo led to a decline into the waters in Lake Turkana. And we're therefore looking at what impact this decline in the waters of the lake has had on the local community, which of course, as I said, relies largely on the lake. The other part of the case, we went to Lamu, which is on the north coast of Kenya. And Lamu is a small island. It has a mainland and 3 other islands. And we're looking at how the people were affected by the construction of the LAPSET project, which is a mega infrastructure project connecting the Lamu port to South Sudan and Ethiopia, seeking to establish a transport corridor. So we're looking at how the destruction of the mangrove forest, the destruction of the waters and the environment led to violation of the people's environmental rights in Lamu.
Oh, so what role does this film play in showcasing the role of Konrad? So
the Konrad Adenauer Stiftung, as I mentioned, is a German political foundation. It is aimed at enhancing the rule of law in Anglophone sub-Saharan Africa. And one of its main projects is just looking at creating awareness among the citizenry on their rights and even helping them to understand the avenues they can take to ensure that their rights are indeed enforced. So this being one of the main programs under KAS, then it was instrumental in just bringing to the fore their mandate. On the other hand, for Kenyatta University School of Law, which is the other project partner, as students, we were able to put into practice our human rights education and also work in public interest, just to educate the community, create awareness and inform them of what they need to do to enforce their rights. So that was also very important for the students as well.
So what does KAS stand to gain from all this?
I think it doesn't boil down to what it stands to gain. I think it is more of putting out its mandate, getting people to understand that human rights violations by any person can be brought to the public eye. For example, no one would have known about the violations of rights in Turkana and Lamu were it not for this film project. So I think it's more of just showcasing the human rights violations and being able to empower the ordinary citizens of the East African community into knowing what avenues they can take when it comes to human rights violations.
After you showcased this film, did these people get the help they needed, or are they getting the help that they very much needed?
I would say that this is work in progress because you don't expect direct results from just a film. The most important thing we as the filmmakers believe will happen is that this matter will be publicized, that will create awareness among communities to understand their human and constitutional rights. Now, on this basis, we have seen, for example, different actors coming on board. For example, when we launched the film on Monday at Kenyatta University School of Law in Parklands, we had the president of the East African Court of Justice, His Lordship Honorable Nestor Kayobera, who just came to give a regional outlook of the film, for example. We hosted Chief Justices Emeritus David Maraga and Honorable Dr. Willy Mutonga, for example. This just as among other civil society and NGO people who are interested in just understanding what can we do to raise awareness and to actually help these people. For example, in Lamu, the people were compensated to the tune of, I think, in excess of 1.7 billion Kenyan shillings.
Wow.
So the film is just here to showcase that do not think that you cannot gain justice simply because you are an ordinary citizen, and that you can actually access court both locally and in the regional court, for example, the East African Court of Justice in Arusha, to have your cases heard. So that is the import of the film, that we can have citizens standing up and saying that we want to be heard. And we're even going beyond and telling you, you can access this through civil society. We have Katiba Institute. We have many, many NGOs that deal with human rights. We also, on the other hand, have individuals, lawyers who are actually willing to assist them by appearing on behalf of them pro bono without payment, just to represent these people and have their plight heard. Yes.
Earlier on, you've mentioned the East African Court of Justice. What is the place of the East African Court of Justice in terms of protecting human rights?
That's interesting. In fact, I wrote my dissertation on the East African Court of Justice, and I was specifically looking at the admissibility requirements of the court. Now, the East African Court of Justice is based in Arusha. It is a regional court. And while most people don't know much about it, I think because it's not very much publicized. And when we spoke to the president about it, he said that they are beginning campaigns to just publicize the court. So this is a regional court that, although it doesn't have an explicit human rights jurisdiction, hears human rights issues. It is mainly mandated with applying and interpreting the Treaty for the Establishment of the East African Community and just protecting the values of the community. So when it comes to human rights violations, for example, it admits human rights cases under the principles of good governance, and it listens to cases. The good thing about the East African Court of Justice is that you can register your claim in Nairobi and in any of the other partner states' capitals because it covers the East African community. And when the claims are heard, you do not have to have gone to Kenyan court. If you feel that maybe you're not confident in the Kenyan judiciary or that you want to be heard at the court, you can just go directly to the East African Court of Justice. They are not filing fees. You just go there for free. You are heard and your matter is determined. So that is what the East African Court of Justice does. It is slowly gaining publicity within the East African community as an indispensable organ for the residents of the community to just go there and be heard.
What matters are these that you can actually take to the court? What matters in regards to human rights can you present to this court?
So, as I mentioned, the court does not expressly have human rights jurisdiction. In fact, the treaty does not confer on the court authority to hear human rights disputes until a protocol authorizing such authority enters into force. So currently, the court has jurisdiction to hear matters to do with the environment, conservation of the environment. For example, there was a case against Tanzania by a Kenyan NGO talking about the government of Tanzania building a superhighway on the Serengeti National Park.
Oh.
So it hears environmental disputes, it hears trade and investment disputes, it hears disputes relating to elections. For example, the Honorable Martha Karua challenged the election of Anne Waiguru in 2017 at the East African Court of Justice. So it hears all sorts of constitutional and other rights that are vested in the treaty. Yes.
Wow. So what is next after the film? What next? What should we be expecting?
We had the conversation with Conrad at the Inua Stiftang and KU, and we asked ourselves, we have done a very beautiful film. Yeah? It's out now to the world. People are able to see, for themselves the plight of these victims. But is this publicity enough? So what we're looking to do is see how we can bring on board civil society, non-governmental organizations, and other actors, even in the international realm, to just come and talk about these issues and see how they can specifically ensure that justice comes or is accessed by these local communities. So we're looking to, beyond publicizing it, going to institutions, challenging government and other institutions to just see how they can ensure the protection of human rights within the East African community. Yes.
So where can people get this film? Tunapata wapi hii film?
So you can check out the film on the website of KAS, K-A-S, Conrad Inua Stiftang. They will be putting the link on the website, and you can also get it on the KUTV platform. I think we will be sharing it also with KUTV so that you're able to access it. It's actually a very interesting film. I would ask that all of us watch it to see, for ourselves what local communities can do in Kenya, and to also just give us hope that much as we think that there's no justice sometimes in Kenya and in the community, to actually see for ourselves that there's actually a lot of avenues that can be taken. And more importantly, I think you would want to watch the film because it shows an interplay between the law, as we see it as very serious and formal, and art, because we just showcased the law in a very artistic way through film and media. So it's just a very good interplay that showcases the relation between formal education and the rights of people. And I would urge that all of us watch the film.
Give us, as we wind up, before we watch the trailer for the film, a final word to the people out there and where we can get you on all your social media platforms. Okay.
So final word is that as a resident of the East African community, as a resident of Kenya, do not give up when it comes to human rights and access to justice. You have enough avenues through our courts, through the regional courts, to be heard and to access justice. And you have an opportunity to stand up as a community and say that we want our rights heard, and we can actually have our rights heard. So get to know your rights and find the necessary avenues through which you can access your rights. I am available on Twitter at Munyoto_Kioko. I am also on Instagram at _M_Kioko. And yeah, you can find me in these places, and I'm happy to be part of the human rights discourse here in Kenya. Thank you.
Privileged to have you this morning. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for sharing your knowledge.